Good afternoon, everybody. It is Thursday, 2 o'clock. Time for a live stream. Macro Talk 2 is what it was formerly called. Now it's called, what did I call it? Insect Prep, Bare Essentials. It's the same thing though. It's Macro Talk. It just occurred to me after somebody told me, that is, that if I didn't have a name that was more descriptive than just Macro Talk 2, nobody would be able to find anything, which is correct. So I'm putting now a different title on all of these videos so you know what's in it. Okay, fair enough. How's everybody doing? Susan, that was a very nice comment. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let me not belabor the point, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. That little piece of tiger beetle leg, there's more where that came from. Quite a lot more, actually. In fact, that's the first thing we're going to talk about this evening, or this afternoon. No, it's this evening, where most of you are, isn't it? Coming up on Saturday, we have a presume. For those of you who don't know it, that's just the thing that we do. My Patreon folks and I get together for a couple of hours every other weekend and just talk about photography and other stuff, all kinds of other stuff. But this week, I have been given permission by a certain person in a certain country that I can share with you some top secret information that I haven't been able to tell you until now. But I'm only allowed to tell it in private, and I can't record it, believe it or not. So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about this thing at 9 o'clock Central Time. That's an hour after we start, so that people on the West Coast can have an extra hour in bed and get up at 2 o'clock in the morning instead of 1, or whatever it is. So that's the plan. Is on Saturday I'm going to give you a little bit of information that you'll be sworn to secrecy on. But it'll be worth it, because you're going to learn something really very useful indeed. Another thing that I'll mention is that while we are there on when we get through with what I have to say on Saturday at about 9:30, an hour, hour and a half in, Bud and I are going to edit some photographs together. Really just to show a few techniques that we think would be useful to you. It's a continuation of the series we've been doing, but we thought we'd do it on Patreon, and I'll probably record it separately and put it out on YouTube for those of you who are interested. Okay, so that's the plan. Have you ever heard of a website called macrorails.com? Me neither. But apparently, from what I hear, it is a place that you probably need to go and check out. I don't know how you'd find it. I don't even know how it's spelled. But apparently it kind of completes the suite of available services through my incredibly interesting company. Yeah, it's a shop of sorts, but it's just for macro. And I think you're going to like it. I think you're going to enjoy it. It's different. Very different. Go take a look at it. While you're over there, do me a favor, sign up for the newsletter, because it is with the newsletter that I'll be able to tell you just what in the heck is going on. And there will be things going on, believe me. It is going to be a website that is about simplifying your life. It's just really a concentration of all of my experience in wasting money over most of my life. I just save you the pain of doing that, tell you what I use, what I like, what I don't like, where you can find it, that type of stuff. It's all the things you ask me for all the time, and so that it is particularly useful, it's going to be chock full of information as well. It's not the same as my website. If you want to go and read a really long, boring article, go to my website. They'll always be there. But if you just want the facts, ma'am, and you want to buy yourself an adapter ring, that's where you go. Okay, macrorails.com. It's pretty awesome. I think so. I own it, part of it. Curly Toes owns the rest of it. He's going to be over there a lot. Say hi to him when you're over there. And what else did I, you know what I was going to do? I was going to ask you if you could hear me, because the last, on Tuesday, I again talked for 10 minutes to myself. So I was going to put up a message asking you to tell me if you couldn't hear me, and the message got too long, and I couldn't see through it. So there you go. So I didn't have to ask this because I'm guessing from the comments that you could hear me. So we'll be done with that. So what are we doing today? I thought we'd do some insect stuff and some studio stuff about my rig, which I repaired on Tuesday and then broke again on Tuesday night and fixed on Wednesday and redid this morning. So it's kind of different than it was. And this is all about that lens, that new lens, because it's an odd shape. So I had to build some stuff, and I thought I'd show you that if you're interested. If you're not interested, or if you thought this was a cooking program, you can go on, because I'm just going to keep talking like this for the next hour. Let me see. What else is there on the list? I should look at the list for that. I want to thank Robert Wester, who I noticed is here from Ocala. Robert, thank you very much. It is because of you that we can have an image like I'm getting ready to show you, if I can find it. Is that it? Yes, it is. This is an image taken through the micro nickel 55mm macro lens, and I am going to be using it today as my second camera. Actually, it's part of my my second camera macro cam thing that I set up. See, except I got the thing wrong there. I'll change that. So yeah, you can see that we've got everything pointed in the right direction for a change. That's going to be exciting and just a tremendous amount of fun. I've got some insects over there as well, courtesy of Robbie Keane. We're going to be positioning a couple of them just to go over a few of the points of what you need in your studio. This is about the essential equipment. It's not about I've given plenty of talks and handed out sheets of paper about all of the stuff that you could get, all of the stuff that I have in my set. But what I did for this, it was I took everything out of my office, and then I just went and got the things I absolutely had to have to pose a couple of insects. And I realized I could get by with a lot less than I thought I could. So I'm going to walk you through that, the bare essentials. It's only about a dozen things, if that, and some of them you can cheat on. Somebody asked me about the magical diffusion material. It's not magical, it turns out it's mylar, which is why it appears to be magical, because it doesn't act like paper. It acts like mylar, which is indestructible, highly poisonous, nice diffusion material. It's fantastic. I swear by this stuff. You're supposed to not put it in a laser printer though, because it creates noxious fumes. Why you would do that, I don't know. The sizes are a bit odd. I cut them with a razor blade, and you know you can only cut 2 slices at once. This stuff is like tear-proof, it's also bulletproof. So I'm going to send, the way it stands now, everybody's going to get like 6 sheets, which is, no, it's 6 sheets. But I'm going to probably have to go to 4 because the requests keep coming in. If you have a request, put your address, don't put it in these notes, because last time they disappeared. I think they'll always disappear. Go to my website, go to Discord, leave me a message. I'll check it today. If your address is in there, I'll put it on an envelope, and this stuff goes out today as soon as I get to the post office, which is as soon as we get finished. Did you follow that? Any of that? Okay, all right. If you want some diffusion, leave me a message. Who's here? Is anybody here, or am I just entertaining myself? Let me see. Rob's here from Peebles. I knew he would be. He's a good man, showing up from Peebles every week. Let's see who else is here. I'm not gonna go through everybody because I got in trouble for taking too long doing it. But Lance is here, and he said that the pictures with this new mystery lens were fantastic. That's 2 compliments in one day. It's never happened before. Thank you guys, both of you. Yeah, I'm actually going to show a whole bunch of those pictures on Saturday too. So that'll be good. Hembrodian's here, and Walter is here from DC. Walter, you're on the list, aren't you? I think so, for the diffusion material. Make sure, yes, I think you are. Okay, am I on your mailing list for diffusion material was the next question I was asked. Did you know that I was psychic when it came to getting ahead of myself? I have no idea. Send it again. Send it again. If that is a question that anybody else has, the answer is send it again. Discord. Go to Discord, leave me a message with your address. I'll do it today, I promise. Jim's here. Jim, did you get an answer when you queried macro rails about not being able to find something? I hope so. That's the plan, is that you'll hear back from us. And Graham's here. Still rainy, still cold in Surrey. Well, it's rainy and cold here too. We're in the middle of another one of these torrential biblical downpours that threatens to nip the signal in the bud. It's been pouring all morning. Which is why I didn't go to the post office already. Not that you care about that, I understand. Kees is here. No, Case is here. He changed his name. Case from the Netherlands. Welcome. Good to have you here. Don't see you here too often. And Ralph, cool and rainy in Pinner, which we now know is in northwest London. It's important you remember that. Alistair's here. Dragos Grammar from Romania. Welcome. Welcome. And Nils. Is that a question? Greetings from Norway. That's a statement. Spring is here, winter's back. 6 inches of snow this morning. Well, I've said it once, I'll say it again. You asked for it. You do live there, and it's in the Arctic Circle, or close. All right, who did I miss? Nobody. Gilles here from Quebec. Ingolf's here from Germany. Greetings. I hope you guys are going to make it to the Euro Pazoom on Saturday. 8 o'clock in the morning, my time. Lunchtime, your time. Great. That'll be wonderful. Let me see. I think I see a question. By the way, if you have a question and you seriously want to get it answered, give me money. Is that what I was supposed to say? I'm sure I've got the script a bit wrong. There's a button you can press that gets my attention, and that's the question button. But beyond that, I don't really know. I am supposed to ask you to give me a thumbs up, though. If I were you, I'd wait till I get finished, because it could all go to heck in a basket. Yeah, it could. It's done that before. So I wouldn't give me a vote until then. Let me see. Phil's here from Cambria. Ian's here from the West Country. Yeah, the West Country is nice. Is it raining there too? Yep, I suppose it is. Phoenix, Arizona. Mike Olson is taking care of Phoenix for us today. And here's a question. When catching fresh insects, how long do you leave them in ethyl alcohol? Hang on. When catching fresh insects, how long do you leave them in ethyl alcohol? And how long do you rep them before they go rigid? Oh, have to reposition them before they go rigid. Well, if you put them in alcohol right away, they won't go rigid. They'll go through a very brief period of stiffness, kind of like rigor mortis, as the muscles harden. But if they're in alcohol, that protein breaks down quite quickly, and they're usually fairly limber. I wouldn't worry about that. If you've got gigantic insects like big locusts and things like that, it's probably a good idea to have some active joint relaxing measures on hand. That's not part of what we're going to be talking about today, but there's a million ways to do it. You just have to use judgment. A lot of people like to store their insects dry. They're the ones that really get stiff and have to be relaxed. The ones that are stored wet, generally speaking, they are relaxed, and they'll actually stiffen into position as the alcohol dries. So I don't think I answered your question. How long do you leave them in ethyl alcohol? Well, forever, until I dispatch them to the toilet bowl, which is how I bury them. Yeah, it's I keep them in fresh ethyl alcohol. I was just looking at my keen bugs from Canada today, And the tiger beetles are still in good shape because I change their alcohol every 2 days. If I haven't photographed them, I change the alcohol very frequently because I want it to be pristine. Once I photograph them, I can let them languish a bit longer, but I still change about once every 2 to 3 weeks. This stuff needs to be changed because it's got a lot of bugs in it. Yeah, brilliant. Once they are going into kind of permanent storage in my catacombs, I'll just take them out, rinse the container, put in fresh alcohol, cap it, and then seal it, either with wax or in a little vacuum bag thing I've got. That's what I do, and then just leave them and don't touch them. What you shouldn't do is let the sun get anywhere near them or shake them. Shaking definitely makes more of a soup than a specimen. Okay, hope that answered the question. Bud Parrot's here. He's going to be the bouncer today, and we'll throw you out on your ear in a moment if he has to. He usually doesn't, though. Harold's here from Norway. You know it's snowing there, right? I just heard. Sorry about that. And Macro Rail said hi, which is nice. And Joseph is here saying hi from sunny Detroit. Yeah, that's twice it's been sunny in the last year, Joseph. You should be getting pretty chuffed that you moved there. You'll only be watching this one out of the corner of your eye. Insects aren't your thing. Well, it's not about insects. Well, it is about insects a bit, but yeah, mostly it's about cameras and equipment, and you need this same equipment if you do flowers. I didn't mention this because I don't know if it's legal in my state to even talk about it, but there is some plant material that's very popular all over the country, and it has some interesting features on its body, stem, leaves, that type of thing. And you have to be very, very careful photographing it. And it's a very popular thing to photograph, but you need to use all of the stuff I'm going to be using today in order to expose those parts that you need to and get the right composition and get a perfect shot. It's very, very similar to what you do with an insect. I wouldn't do any of that to a meteorite. If you had a small meteorite, you're probably okay to just skip this completely when I start talking about that. Yeah. But there you go. That's. I think that you probably should pay attention with more than just a quarter of your eye. David's here from Cloudy Leeds, which is in Yorkshire. We knew that. It's funny. He came from Chichester, which is actually in Sussex, where I came from. Small world, isn't it? Chichester's nice too. There's a cathedral there. There's a cathedral everywhere in England, though. Every town has one, or 3. Let me see. Greetings from down the road, dodging thunderstorms. I told you it was bad here. Welcome, Allan. Glad you're here. Sam Davies, greetings. And Chris is here from Vienna, Austria. Good evening. You have a question. How do you pose small spiders? I've tried shooting one and it's so soft it doesn't hold its position. It shrinks while I'm drying. I don't have a spider, or do I? I may. They are notoriously difficult because they're not insects. Well, not because they're not insects. They're not insects, and they have soft bodies. They don't have an exoskeleton, and it's the exoskeleton that we're positioning when we pose an insect. And everything that happens to that insect is in our favor. The joints get a little stiff, so you can position them and they'll stay in position. That you can stand them up on their legs after a while. The complete opposite is true of spiders. Now, the first thing that you need to do if you're dispatching a spider to photograph is first of all make sure it's dead, because spiders do not seem to have the same fatal attraction to what am I trying to say? The stuff I use to dispatch insects, blanking, ethyl acetate. Yeah, spiders seem to like it. I think they think of it as a Saturday night out or something, and they get rowdy. And when they wake up, they have a terrible hangover, and they're very difficult to deal with. So if you have a big spider, I suggest you kill it some other way, and don't put it in the freezer. other than being just mean to do that. When they freeze, their innards liquefy and you'll never photograph it. They just pop like a, yeah, nasty. I recommend you can't boil them, which would be a good way to fix their proteins, but I found if you just immediately submerge them in water, they'll become quite turgid and stay that way long enough to photograph. But there are tricks to it. I've done a video on this, but it was back in the dark ages before, yeah, I don't know if it was on videotape or a VHS or something, but there is a video of it where I walk you through the steps. But basically what I do is, I'm not going to have one. I couldn't show you it anyway because I don't have the equipment. You take the spider and just sit it on a little piece of foam core. Foam core is the cardboard, foam in the middle, cardboard. I don't even have any of that sitting around. I normally do. But if you take a good sharp pin, a 3/0 pin, and stick it up through the card from below, it will come out, and if you plan it right, it'll come out right under the thorax of the spider. And what your goal is to lift the spider up with the pin, but not pierce it. If you do that and then let it dry on the card, you can very gently pull it down onto the pin to anchor it. Then you can push the pin the rest of the way up and through the foam core. That's what I do. It allows them to kind of dry in a fairly natural, all 8 feet on the ground type of pose. You can also photograph them like that. If you use a nice clean piece of white foam core or black foam core or any foam core for that matter, you can position it at a slight angle. You can do a stacked shot and do it in such a way that you can't see the pin or the shadow of the pin. That's another way to do it. I have photographed them on little balls of white blue tack, which is okay. Really anything that will support them. Expect them to sag more than anything else, and most important of all, don't ever puncture the abdomen. Everything in there just turns to liquid, and it'll all run out and you'll have an empty spider. So yeah, they're hard to shoot. Honestly, I would do a Stuart Wood on this, and if I had my druthers, I would just shoot spiders alive. The only time I do actually photograph them is when I accidentally kill one, or on purpose kill the one that's in my garage right now that is the size of that, a dinner plate for a small, very small person. Yeah, it's got shiny eyes. I'm not kidding. They shine from across the room. Shocking, terrifying. What else is on the list? I'm going to tell you about those repairs. Let me do that real quick. Can I show you this? Can I show you this? I've covered up the name of what it is, the name of who makes it, and all identifying features. But you still might have a guess at it, but you probably won't know what it is. So I am going to show you, if my phone works. This is an experiment, so it works. Okay, great. Yeah, yeah, there we go. It's working. So we're going to go over there, and it is a terrible mess. Can you hear me? I tell you what, I'm just going to hope you can hear me, because I've got the microphone on this thing. So there it is, and I can't show you any more than that. But I am going to show you what I had to do and what I fixed. I had to take the stack shot off because the lens was too long and too heavy for me to support it with a camera, obviously, and of an odd shape that wouldn't allow me to, oops-a-daisy, that wouldn't allow me to, I'm going to have to edit that out before anybody over there in Germany sees that. So yeah, what I had to do was to put this whole thing on a sled, that thing right there. And it seemed like a good idea, and it supported the lens for a while. And then it didn't, because that has some foam on the top of it and it sagged. So what I did was, I discovered that my little, I used this thing for knife sharpening find out what kind of a bevel I've put on my knives, what have you. And I discovered that it actually was sagging just a little bit. So yeah, I've fixed this thing up now to where I can dial it in pretty exactly to flat. And I'm ready to start taking pictures again. That is the very short version of what actually happened, because, sorry, don't vomit on me. Yeah, it's there were a lot more things I had to do. And you're probably wondering, well, you haven't done anything about the problem in the first place, which is supporting that long lens. What are you going to do? Well, this is the solution. It's this is a piece of stainless steel painted black. This is a piece of stainless steel, and so is this. And this has got a hole in it. That's got a screw hole in it that I didn't get in the middle. This goes in here like that. You didn't see that. This goes in there. This bolts to this like that, and that's the base. This goes up and down, and then you can secure it with the little black screws that I've lost. I had 4 of them, and I lost all 4 of them. They're around here somewhere. I'll find them in my supper, usually. But that locks this at the right height. And then the best part is up at the top of this, where that dent is. This is a toilet roll thing. I'm going to have to find another way to dispense toilet paper. Yeah, that's probably a little more information than you needed. But I got these skateboard wheels that they're great. They've got ball bearings in them, and they're lovely and soft. They've never been on a road, I don't think. And I just drilled a hole and tapped a thread in it, and then that goes on there, and then a bolt goes into that and holds the whole 9 yards. So the whole thing looks a bit ridiculous, doesn't it? But what it does is the lens can now slide right over it will fall apart if you don't tighten the screws. The lens just glides over that, and it holds it at exactly the same height. And I can see that from the angle. Isn't that clever? I invented that. I'm going to have to come up with a name for it. In fact, I probably shouldn't have told you about it, should I? I should have just invented it. Well, there you go. So that was the biggest problem. And one of the biggest problems I have... No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. It's too early. I've got other things to do to do my tests. But now you know a little bit about it. I do have a stable platform, and the pictures you saw and liked and commented on were actually taken when the thing was acting wonky. I was throwing away a lot of terrible pictures. So yeah, I think we can expect to see some really nice stuff. So we're going to get under the microscope in just a sec. Let me see what has been going on here in the chat. Let me see. Macro Rails is waving frantically. That worries me usually when I see frantic waving. It's your zipper. Yep, Danny's here from Northern Ireland. Welcome. And John Gisks, who is a new visitor. Isn't that right, John? I haven't seen you here before. If you have, I apologize for missing you, but welcome from the Netherlands. If you look to your left, you can see Case, and you can wave to him and say hi. Baconmeister's here, back home in Westcliff-on-Sea, which is in Essex, which is like at the end of the London River, where it dumps out into the North Sea. It's a nice place. My sister-in-law lived there. Well, yes, she did. Let me see. Oh, look, there's the macrorails.com thing that you can click on. It's a link and go look at the macro. Did you already go over there and sign up for the newsletter? I'm going to go through all of your names and find out who didn't. And oh, I was told not to say that. Forget that. I won't do that. All right, Nils, question. Last live stream, the cam with the huge 50x lens fixed. And the bug moving on the macro rail, isn't that a better setup compared to a £5 rig to move on a rail? That is a fantastic question, and let me tell you why I switched back? Good question. That's really what I want to talk about. What I had done was I was putting the specimen on the rail, and I was moving it while keeping the camera static. I didn't have enough control of at 50 anyway, I didn't have enough control using my usual technique of just mashing the blue tack. I needed some actual micro positioning. Because of the weight of the XYZ R table and how high it lifted everything off the deck, I decided I wanted to, instead of that, use a simpler thing. So I took a microscope stage like this and put it on a steel plate and then bolted it to this aluminum bracket, and then put this on an arm, what do you call it, a rail attached to my rotation table. Sounds good, and it was nice and flat and even, and I had wonderful positioning control in the two axes that I didn't have. So that's great, and it was doing great. And then all of my pictures that I took that day, I ended up throwing away, because what was happening was, when you have a rig like that set up and you're using a lens that is as long as that, any deviation from the straight and narrow on the tracking of the subject in reference to the stationary sensor is going to be exaggerated as a movement across the frame in one way or the other. And I was literally having tiny subjects just bop right across the screen and off. And I didn't realize how amplified the problem was when you have that amount of movement. And also, because of the way this was attached, this bracket, this was able to move as well as the whole thing rotate. So I was kind of eyeballing it to get it straight. And if it was not, if it was off a bit and then compensated for, as it moved to the sensor, it would be moving, in some instances, a great deal. I just got so frustrated with it, I thought, I'm just going to go back to what I know, and I know I can keep that lens straight because it wants to stay straight. I mean, it's got a big flange on it. It's going to stay straight. I can just help it to do that. And then I can leave the subject fixed on a known reference flat surface and move it from there. I may still use this, but it won't be moving. So that's a good question. And I am working on a solution. Let me say one other thing about the mystery lens. It can be configured differently than that. And the other configurations are not necessarily any less complicated to work with, but there are a couple of commonalities in all of the setups, and those are the things that I'm trying to build a system around, a way of changing the lens quickly and comfortably when you want to change magnification, as some people do a lot when they're doing high magnification macro photography. It is a tremendous fun tool, and I am very, very excited for the day that I can tell you more about it and show you all of the pictures. The tease this weekend is just that. It's more, and I'm not doing this to be cruel. I'm doing it because it's all I'm allowed to tell you. But as I'm allowed to tell you more, I will tell you more. And I have been positively impressed so far. That's it. That's all I'm saying. From Fortaleza in Brazil. What does CE stand for? Don't know what that means. I'll look it up though. You don't have to tell me. It would be fun to look it up. Greetings, Claudio. Welcome. And Joseph? Nope, he's not talking to me, so I'm not looking at that. I've been told not to look at other people's messages. They're private. Okay. And now it's the chit-chatting back and forth. You notice that some items have missing images and instead show a bunch of t-shirts. Yes, okay, you're talking, Chris, about the website. Yeah, that is a thing that I have no idea what that means, but I do know somebody who has probably already read your message and has addressed that. I think it's a placeholder. There are some things that I haven't photographed yet, and I try to I try to do as much of the photography as possible. But sometimes we just discover I don't have a picture for that. So that's probably all it is. I know it's not a t-shirt because we don't have a t-shirt yet. We will. It'll have a gigantic picture of my face on it, so nobody will buy it, but insects won't bother it. Yeah, it's not out yet. So sorry about that, but don't worry about it. I was also instructed to let you know that this site is currently in a thing called alpha. Alpha, not alfalfa, alpha. It's before you get into beta, which is something else. It's it's some kind of, when your website's just pretty rubbishy still. Not that ours is really quite nice, but when there are still things to be tweaked on it, it's in alpha. There you go. So it's an alpha website. Did anybody see the thing with the titanium wire on Tuesday? And has anybody tried it? I might do that while we're under the microscope today. Titanium wire, which appears to form titanium tetrahydroxide something or other, carbonized something on its surface, is perfect for leg positioning beetles, and I'll show you. I'll cut a piece off so I remember. It's titanium. That's a fancy wire to use for insects, but stainless steel doesn't do it because it's too slippery. I haven't tried putting titanium oxide on it though. Anyhow, we'll do that. I know I've already shown you how to do it, but it wasn't a very good demonstration because my insect was too small. You could hardly see it. Should we get under the microscope so I can talk about these things? Is there anything urgent, like a question that I need to address? Nils, I hope I answered your question. Okay, so we answered that, and good sound from Case. That's good. T-shirts are placeholders. I'll make sure to get that updated as soon as possible, says Macro Rails. Macro Rails is not his real name. It's Curly Toes. Was I not supposed to say that? Sorry about that. I blew his cover. He's not. It's not Curly Toes. So there you go. Hey, Laura. I didn't realize you were here. Welcome. Glad you made it. And Danny Gibson's here. Sam Davis, I already said hi to. And C. Sacken. Yeah. Oh, Dragos, thank you very much. Dragos had just given me 80 rons. I don't know what I'd do with one ron, to be honest, but yeah. The diffusion. Oh, you're editing your picture for the competition. Has everybody photographed something rotting? You've only got a few days left. It's not going to be long enough to rot anything if you don't hurry. Yeah, the diffusion's going out. If you're on the list, it's going out hopefully today or tomorrow. I'll get the envelopes today, send it out tomorrow probably. And it's good stuff too. Bacon Meister, are you back home from your sojourn? Are you feeling better? I do hope so. Yeah, you've had a rough time of it, my friend. Alpha, beta, and gamma. Yeah, that's what we do. That's our new thing. Website development city where I live. Yeah, Greek letters is what we're doing right now. It'll be fun. An insect repelling T-shirt. No, it's a photograph. It's a photograph of me. That's what repels the insects. The T-shirt is just a T-shirt, as far as I know. That they make insect repelling T-shirts, or at least that's what they stamp on the label. Some of the fishing shirts I wear are supposedly insect repelling. They don't, but that's what they're called. Yeah. That's a good one. Joseph suggests that a T-shirt made entirely of spiders would be an insect repellent. I think he's probably right there. So, shall we look through the microscope together? I think so. What's the first essential? Well, seriously, no kidding, the first essential is you've got to have a microscope of some kind. If not a microscope, one of those magnifying glasses on a bendy arm, you know, the big one with a ring of fluorescent light in it. I had one of those for donkey's years, and they were every bit as good as a cheap microscope. Then I got a cheap microscope, and I learned that that was even better. And I really enjoyed using the inexpensive Amscope that I had for years and years. But you need something under which you can manipulate small subjects, be it plants or whatever it is you're cleaning up. You'll need this magnification for whatever you're doing. The one thing I wouldn't do is get a digital type microscope. I have recommended them in the past. I would not recommend them anymore. The reason is they have such a horrible lag time. It's fine to record a little bit of video, but what you don't want to do is try to move your hand when you have a lag. There's a bad lag on the Nikon shot there as well. So it's difficult to do anything that way. You have to look through the microscope. So if you don't have one, take your time. Getting a microscope is a big deal. That is one of the essentials, but it's not one of the ones I'm going to list today because it's a whole separate subject. I'm holding one of the other things. I've talked about this before. I've even made a video on this. These tweezers that I buy go by a bunch of different names. They're all made in India, and they're all made by different companies. They all have they're all number 11s is the size that I use, and then they make some with a bend in them that I'm not as fond of. Oh, that's from iFixit. Anyway, the trick is don't buy expensive titanium tweezers. What you want are the dirt cheap ones like these. And the reason you want them is these sharpen to a razor sharp needle point in 2 minutes with a piece of 1000 grit sandpaper. So I sharpen these every day before I use them, and it allows me to pick up tiny insects by a single appendage. So you need a packet of these. I used to buy a set, a mixed set of all different shapes of tweezers, and I would end up throwing them all away or giving them all away except for the number 11s. Now I just buy packets of the 11s. I don't use any others. So I'm going to pick out a fellow to look at here. This is a beautiful example, Agapostemon, sweat bee. And let's pick something else with tougher legs to deal with. Oh, here's a cockroach hunter. Yeah, pretty sure that's what that is. These are parasitic to cockroaches. They're both fairly different, and then I'll get something with scrunched up legs in a minute. So the first part of the dissection, the first part of the preparation is to sharpen your tweezers and get them sharp enough to the point that you can pick up an individual appendage without crushing it. Not in great focus, are we? Unfortunately, as I've been saying for years, I'm still not able to look through the scope and do anything because of the depth issue. So the job in getting one of these ready, and I picked a B here because they almost always need to be combed, is to dry and comb them at the same time, and you do it while their back is still wet. This is how an Agapostemon bee settles down when it dies. It looks like it's sitting down. It looks a bit like a spider. They all seem to do this, and it's a great way for it to hold itself up. Most wasps don't. They either form a complete circle or they lie on their back stretched out. If they're on their back stretched out, then it's important that you work on their belly side, on their legs first. As soon as you put them down on the filter paper, which is the next essential, because once they're on the filter paper, they will stick to it when they're wet, not when they're dry. So this guy's already dry and he's moving all over the place. You want to get him while he's wet to work on the extremities. So let me show you what you need to do and what you need to use to get them dry and groomed. You need some filter paper. This is called Zen Pour. I have no idea what is Zen about it. The pour I get, it's porous. It's filter paper. It's got to be porous or it wouldn't be filter paper. So what I do is I cut pieces about that size with a pair of scissors or a knife. And while I scramble around looking for another pair of scissors, which I don't seem to have, isn't this irritating? How the one thing that well, it's important that you pretend. Hang on, no, it's important that you pretend that I cut this and not tear it, because if you cut it, these will shred along the edge. So, I mean, if you tear it, they will shred. You want to cut it. So, what you're going to do is cut that into little pieces. And I've just remembered I've got a knife. No, I've lost that too. Yeah, what did you do this morning while I was preparing for this live stream? I'm sure you had a plan. Here's a knife. All right, so I'm just going to cut it into sections like that. And don't freak out that I'm cutting on my desk. This is a piece of plastic that I put on my desk so I can do this. There. Now, the reason that you cut them up like that is because you are going to only use them one corner at a time. And this is the way you do it. You take one of the pointy pieces, and I know a lot of you have seen this before, but it's worth mentioning again. Let me zoom in with the microscope a little bit so you can see what's happening. As you see how his hair is all matted on the back there and curly looking. Boy, this is a beautiful bee. What I do is I use the corner of the paper, the very point of the paper. I'm going to have to look through the microscope in a second, and I am pushing the little hairs back as if it was a human head. I'm serious, it sounds ridiculous, but what's happening is you can see the liquid, I hope, no you can't, not with it over there. You can see the liquid soaking into the paper just by touching the hairs. If you just let it dry, it dries matted. But if you stroke the areas with the bristles on them, they'll dry instantly, they'll look brighter, more colorful, and you can see I hope, the wet corner there. As soon as you get a wet corner, switch to another part of the point. For really wet places, you can fold it in half like this so that your point is, where is it? There it is, double thickness point at the end there. It's a bit bright, isn't it? Let's try. Oh, you know what? I cut out a piece of cardboard. Somebody told me to use black instead of... oh, I've made it worse, haven't I? Yeah, well, I know what I'll do. I'll close the aperture down. Yeah, there we are. Somebody told me to use black. I cut out a piece of black card and then I left it somewhere else in the back. Okay, so where's our bug gone? There he is. I will not really worry too much about the abdomen or the thorax. They dry fine on their own. It's the parts that you're going to be showing off, the hairy parts of the face. I'll use my finger actually so that I can bring the antennas forward, and the finger just sits there in case he wants to rock up against it. And the biggest secret is to get the point right down behind the scruff of the neck, between the thorax and the chest and the head, and just hold it there for as long as you can until you drop it. That will suck all of the fluid out of the chest, and not out of the inside of the chest, out of the thoracic hair, and it'll dry him. See how much shinier he is than when we started? This is because you've got the liquid off before it's had a chance to cake and form a crust. This is an amazing looking bee. I'm going to get this back into, wings. See how this wing on this edge of the wing is turned over, twisted? It's kind of twisted up into a like this piece of paper. Don't try to pick that apart with your dissector. That is always going to tear the wing. What I do is I blow that out. The way I would do that would be grab the next essential for your cleaning, for your basic cleaning set is a rocket blower. You have to have one. Pick up the proximal segment, the closest segment to the body on the bee, and then blow the wings in the direction of the bee. So you're blowing from the front. Is a temptation to turn the bee over and blow from the back. What that will do is just mess up the hair, and it won't unfurl the wings. The wings are made to unfurl when the air is passing through them from the front to the back. Like, if I can get it in the picture. It's not in either picture, is it? Well, this is harder than it looks. There we go. Now let me get him in focus. Okay, nice. So I'm going to blow the air in the direction right over the wings. And what it'll do is that they're aerodynamic. They'll unfurl with just that blowing. Also, it's a good time to just give a couple of puffs on the antennae and the hairs of the face. This is such a beautiful bee. Look at it from the side. Let me see if I can get you a decent picture. Or any picture there. Let's see. Look at that guy. How can that not make a good picture? So pretty. Moment of silence for this guy. Look at that. See, I'd move to Canada just to get stung by one of these. The thing is, they don't sting. They're mild-mannered creatures, apparently. Okay, so what about this other guy? What are we going to do to get him straightened away? He's already dry as a bone, so let's treat him as if he is a dry insect. The goal here is to get his legs positioned, and at this point, it's too late for you to do that using the wet technique of just positioning and holding. You could, if it was a big wasp, use pins and a soft surface, a foam surface to stick the pins in and position the limbs where you wanted them. But for positioning appendages in dead insects when they're already dry and they're not really going to move, is you have to pin them. You have to pin them first. So wet, you pin them last. Dry, you pin them first. Always use the smallest pin you think you can get away with for the size of the insect. And if you're going to have to do a lot of cleaning or positioning, go one pin stouter. I'm going to repeat that. Pins, by the way, are another crucial thing. You have to have pins. You can't use the pins you fix your socks with. Do you fix socks with pins? That might be why mine never stay fixed. You might need a needle for that. But anyway, if you have 3 and 4/0 pins, then you're thinking that's about a 3/0 I'd normally use on that insect. Go to a 2/0 if you're going to be doing a lot of cleaning, and you'll see why. This is rough on the insect, and sometimes you'll knock the pin off. And anytime you do that, it degrades the insect. You can't help it. They fall on the table, they get dust, sticks to the super glue. It's a mess. You only want to pin them once. By the way, this is the other essential, an other essential. Well, I'll show it to you up there because you can actually... No, you can't read it, can you? Because it's upside down and the inks come off. It says ethanol, 95%. That's because I didn't want to write Everclear on it, which is the actual what's in it. It's just ethanol. Let's go back to the other Yeah, shall we use that? Were you getting enough of a picture from the... No, I think not. Let's see if we can do this this way, because you'll see more. So the pinning of an insect can follow one of two, well, a flying insect, one of two courses. If the insect has positioned its legs in a way that exposes the center of the thorax, right there, which it does, pin it in the center of the thorax with the tip of the pin, and actually pin it after dipping the pin in CA glue. If you are going to have to negotiate underneath crossed legs to get to the thorax, I would usually bend the tip of the pin a few microns and slide the bent pin underneath the legs and then press it down onto the thorax that way. I wouldn't stick it, I wouldn't jab it. In this case, it's presenting itself too easily not to jab it. So the next essential after alcohol and pins is glue. You can use any CA glue you want. I recommend not using gel because it picks up too much glue, and not using runny because it doesn't pick up enough glue. I recommend just the perfect medium glue solution, like this cheap stuff from Harbour something or other. Now I better not stick it under there and put glue on my microscope. So what I'm going to do is I'm sticking the pin in. Let me go back to the other screen so you can see this. What I'm going to do is stick the tip of the pin into the glue like so. I think there's some in there. It's probably better to get the glue to the end of the thing so you know there's glue in it, and I'm not sure there is. Yeah. I am not convinced there's glue coming out of that. Plan B. Let me grab my little... There it is. There's my other bottle. So this is the same stuff, only a bit runnier. And I put that in as an applicator, and then I couldn't get it out because it's super glue and it sticks. So all you want to do is get the tip wet. If you're using runny glue like this, most of it will run off. You only have a few moments. If I get glue down the shaft of the pin, I wipe it off because I don't want all of that glue. So I just wipe it down until I've got some visible at the end. That's enough, because even that's going to be too much to use. I'm going to touch it off when I get down there. Okay, I don't think this is going to work as far as them seeing through the microscope. No, let me see. Maybe it will. Okay, so I'm seeing that. I can't tell if I'm anywhere near the thing. No, I'm going to have to do it with my regular eyes. So what I want to do is I'm coming straight down into the center of mass of the thorax. If you touch it and it sticks to your pin, keep going. If you touch it and it doesn't, you can regroup. You'll know it's in when it yields ever so slightly. It doesn't pop in, it just kind of slides in. I'm not getting a good angle on this because I think I may have just, no. Sometimes it'll stick to the base of the legs. This is extremely hard to do when you can't see what you're doing. Alrighty, I'll tell you what, that is going to have to do while that sets. I'm gonna look at it under the microscope and pin it more securely than that, but I'm gonna have to turn the other camera off to do that. So you can look at nothing apparently. Oh, that's macro cam. You can look at the back of my head while I do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pin and advance it into the thorax, but with my eyes focused. Boy, it is only just stuck in by the very, very tip of its. I think. Yeah, this is. You probably need less magnification rather than more when you're doing this. More magnification doesn't help, it just makes your fingers bigger. So it's very much a matter of rolling the pin so that it is, your force is straight through the center of the, where the thoracic segment appendages attach. That's your target. You'll notice on this wasp that there are 4 appendages coming together right here, right there. That is where I want to pierce the thorax, is right there. It's the softest part. There we go. It'll slide right in there between the legs, and that little ball of glue will cement it in position. I'm sorry, I have the wrong thingamajig. Yep, there it is. So you can hopefully see that. Not in great focus, is it? Let's put him under the microscope and show you there. So it's right at the where the legs come in, and that's great because that causes it to basically disappear in the photograph. When you photograph it, the legs are going to be covering the pin entrance point. Look at the face on this character. He's got a diabolical looking mien. Yeah, pretty wasp. What I do here for positioning the appendages is dead simple. Because this is so small, I wouldn't relax it any more than it already is. And the trick is, when you pull an appendage down, you have to pull it in the direction that it goes naturally, which for most insects is the forelimb is going to swing forward and down in an arc. Yet the 2 hind limbs are going to come out almost perpendicular to the body and then swing to the back. And if you try to force them in the wrong direction, they won't unfurl, and you'll just move the bug or break them off the pin. So let me see if I can, again, I can't do this without seeing it through the scope. Oh, that's better. So for this one here, I hope you can see this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push the leg forward. The temptation is to grab it in this hook like there and pull it backwards and around. Doesn't go down that way. It goes down forward, beyond the eye, and it should stay down. See how it swivels sideways? When it gets down, it swivels out. That's where you want to pin it if you can. So in this case, this might need to be relaxed. I'm also having a hard time seeing it. There we go. So you want it down in this position, and that's easy enough to do with a pin. The other limb here at the back goes in the other direction and locks down. One trick, if all you're doing is photographing the thorax and the head, oh, look at the iridescence at the base of that wing. Can you see that? Glinting. Oh, it's beautiful. One thing that you can do is just, if you want, put a little more glue on the pin, and you can sweep the legs down and touch the appendage on the shaft of the pin, and it will keep them down out of the way for your photograph. It's pretty nasty practice, so I try not to do it very often. And that's this guy actually looks pretty good already. I don't think I'd fiddle around with his legs that much. what I want to photograph here is his head. Here's a top tip. Never photograph a wasp or a bee with asymmetric antennae. They just look terrible. Take the time, re-wet them if necessary, and comb them until they both stay in the same position. Pulling them both up like that often helps. And then when they come back down, they'll look a little bit better. And then when you photograph them, try to get a look like that so that they are at least going in the right direction. Yeah, it is worth spending the time holding it for a few seconds in the position you want so that it stays there. It makes all the difference in the world. The limbs don't have to be symmetric, neither do the wings, but the antennae do. If you ever see a wasp with asymmetric antennae, it's dead. All right. Okay, so I was going to show the trick with the, oh yeah, the next essential, blue tack. Let's go back over to the, I'm sure that some of you have probably become quite nauseous from that episode. I have to come up with a better way of doing this. I really do. I'm probably multiple cameras, but really what I need is somebody filming it or pointing the camera and anticipating my moves. That's what it's going to be, which is what I need for everything, is an assistant. Does anybody want to volunteer? I'm paying nothing, yeah, and no benefits. So think about it. It's not as bad a deal as you think. It is exactly as bad. I'm wrapping a string, a worm of blue tack around my pin. This is my standard mounting procedure. I've done it this way for years. There's no way better for getting a good solid base on it. And that's it. Like so. And then you've already examined him under the microscope, so you know exactly what pose you want him in, what angle you want him in. If you photograph this one from one side, it looks like he's flying. From the other side, it looks like he's landing. That's a nifty trick. So what was I going to do? I was going to show, the leg thing. I'll leave him out. Wasps and bees can be left out pretty much for days at a time, and they'll dry and stay stable, and they'll photograph well. Flies do not. Flies' eyes deteriorate very rapidly, and they'll look terrible. If you ever lose the super glue bottle, find it before your trousers stick to you. Let me see. I've missed a lot. Okay, there was something. I think I missed something. There's an interesting thing that Curly Toes is saying up at the top there, but I'm not allowed to read backwards. So I'll read this later. That was a grade AB, no doubt about it. All of these insects that I got from Canada are just breathtaking, especially these stunning. You want to see one of these out of its jar? They are so lovely. And you would think, well, I don't know what you'd think, actually. That's a fairly personal thing. You can think whatever you like. But when you take them out, they look at just a tad drab, kind of brown. Not unattractive brown, but let me get him under the scope for you, and you can see. And just as I dry it, you're going to see the most dramatic change. It's like the weevil, the clown weevil, only the colors are even more intense. So you can see there's not a lot to see, just a brownish looking bug. Let's position the light better. Well, you've got some spots going on the back, but that's about it. Doesn't look like much, does it? Well, a few puffs of air and you'll start to see blues and greens emerge from every surface, especially underneath. It is unbelievable how pretty these things are. And as you dry them, and I never would use a blower actually, I don't know why I did that. As you dry them and the alcohol soaks up into the paper, the lights just come on, and there are reds and blues and greens and yellows and purples, every color of the rainbow, and the limbs are particularly impressive. Let's try and zoom in and see if we can see any of that color, and it'll change too. Let's try to open that up a little bit, get it in focus. Very nice. All right, now you can see that these could be difficult to photograph. Look at the colors on this. It's ridiculous. The mouth parts are the best in the business. Purple and green and red and blue, just amazing. Even the antennae are multicolored. You're probably wondering, or probably not, possibly not, how do you get those jaws open? It's just exactly like you would think. If you don't have razor sharp tweezers, you will never get this done. It is hard to do unless your tweezers come to a very, very fine point. Don't hold the legs and push against. Don't hold the legs and push against the mouth parts to try to open the jaws. Use a nail against the head. I'll show you what I mean. Use a finger or a nail like that against the head, and then just slide the tips of your sharpened tweezers right between the two mandibles and release them, but just a little bit. I can't do this without looking directly at it, so sorry, you're going to be out of focus for just a second while I position these. There are two mouth parts in a tiger beetle that are really hairy. I don't know what they are. They're at the back of the mouth. They're palps that have long white hairs on them, and they get in the way of this procedure. I can't get them apart. I will probably get this guy from the top, actually. See how I'm using my, no you don't. I'm using my finger to stop him from sliding. Let's try to do it so you can see it. Yeah, we need technology on our side. If you can't get both tweezers through, start with one tweezer side, and then just twist it once you get between the mandibles. They will pop open, and once they pop open, they stay open. All right, I'm not doing any more to this guy, or I'm going to tear him before I photograph him, and I refuse to do that. Let's look at his back now as we've got him semi-dry. I'm going to look up and answer the questions in a second. Now, the brown of the back, which was nothing and not interesting, now look at it. And it gets better. The more you zoom in, look at that. People spend a fortune buying jewel beetles from Botswana or whatever, when these things apparently are quite common up north. Look at the colors. And if you find a beetle and it looks really drab, it's one of these tiger beetles and it looks really drab, it probably isn't. By the time you get it, it's brown, because that's what happens when you mix all the paint together. I used to do that a lot when I was in school. That is something else. I could look at this all day long under the microscope. It's just so breathtaking. It's the front claws that I photographed in that picture, by the way, where the purple and green is. the species to species variability is relatively little. They look very much alike from one to the next in the same species. I think that, yeah, I think I've risked hurting him enough. But if anybody saw the picture of the eye of this tiger beetle, it was this view of the forehead where all the colors were blending together. So lovely. It's thank you again, Robbie. I have photographed these things rarely because of how hard they are to find here, which is actually just impossible is the right word for it. Okay, enough rambling. We'll do the... Oh, it's 3:13. Wasn't I supposed to go till 3? That's where everybody left. Look, guys, I didn't even get to your questions, which I'll get in trouble for, but that's okay because we had fun and I think we covered a lot of stuff. The things that I talked about today, if they're not already on macrorails.com, they will be. Something just fell on the floor after hitting my leg and rolling, so I don't know what it was. So go over there and all the stuff I talked about, the actual stuff I use will be over there, and you can order it if you want. If you don't want to, you don't have to. It's just over there so you can get the name. I think I covered all of the essentials. I did every one of them. So you can get started on that. This spring and summer we're going to be doing a lot of this, and eventually I'll get the microscope figured out. Listen, come on Saturday if you can. For the reveal and for the Photoshop tutorial with Bud, Parrot and I. We're gonna remove things, move things, and add things using various tools to do that kind of thing in Photoshop. Show you how to do those things like clone stamp and what have you. Basic stuff, but good fun. And that's it. Oh, those of you who are waiting for the date on the Fusion 360 thing is not yet decided. It will be soon, and as soon as I know it, you'll know it. If you've signed up for it, thank you. Yeah, it's nice to know who's coming. That's the only reason you sign up for it. Doesn't cost anything. If you want to come, let me know. Don't just show up because that would be inconvenient for the speaker. Okay. I'll see you guys on Tuesday or Saturday, or when I release the video of Stuart Wood and I having a conversation last week, which is getting a little bit delayed. So I'll be working on that soon. Thank you for bearing with me. Sorry for skipping the messages here at the end. I'm going to read them now, and if there's any super important ones, I'll email you or something. Okay? Thanks for coming. Have a good day. Take care and be safe. You know what? I'm going to keep talking as long as there's anybody here just to answer these questions. Macro Rails has already answered it. So yes. Privacy, security, yes. We're all over that. That's my specialty. I'm in charge of that. I am not in charge of that. Don't worry about it. I don't even have the passwords. Can a bee be said to be or not to be an entire bee when half the bee is not a bee due to some ancient injury? Yes or no. One of those. You too funny. All roads lead to Monty Python. That's the truth when I was growing up. In fact, you'd get to Monty Python usually within one sentence of whatever you said. Hernando, thank you so much. That is very generous of you. I appreciate it. Hernando tossed in a tenner. And I never properly thanked my friend who, Dragos Grama, for the 80 RONs. I don't know what a Romanian onion network, is that what they stand for? I don't know, but you will do well in the competition this month, Drago, because you have the right attitude. Yeah, you know, I don't see the pictures before the competition. I do not. I am not allowed to, and that's good. That way I don't know who I'm judging till I'm done. There's a question from Case. Last time you compared Mitu prices, MJKZZ and Edmund Optics was listed their Mitu Toyos without tax. MJKZZ is including tax. Good to know. Yes, it is good to know. Thank you. That is useful information. I never think about that, but you're right. VAT is included in the prices over there, and the sales tax is not included in the prices usually here. Yeah, that's right. You pay that after the fact, I think. Angie Wallace. Oh, it's Joseph talking about somebody else. There you go. Message Allan on Discord. Was somebody looking for me? Oh, my shirt. Is that the problem? Is the shirt doing funny things? Blimey. Matt, join the list for Mylar paper. Just go over to Discord. Give me your name and address. I'll get it in 5 minutes and I'll go send it today. Angie doesn't want spider t-shirts. I don't blame her. And Baconmeister, I have nightmares about spiders. Apparently Stuart Wood used to be scared of spiders and got over that by buying and handling his jumping spiders. That is correct. That is the story he told me when we talked. Great. Look, thanks everybody for coming. Thanks for going over there to Macro Rails and signing up for the newsletter. I know that you've probably signed up for my newsletter and are still waiting for the first edition of it. I just never figured out how to make it all work together. That's what Curly Toes has done. So sign up for the newsletter and you will be shocked and amazed by how useful that will be. It really will be. I think that's everything. This is great because Curly Toes is chatting with folks and helping with these questions. Send the bee to me. I can make a not good picture. That is not true, Toluca. That is just not true. You make really good pictures. Okay. So I think we're pretty much, I was at Hernando and Susan reminded everybody before they all left to do the thank you thumbs up thing like that. So thank you all. And cheers everybody. We'll see you next week. Sorry that was long. You know me. Talk. Ethanol, boss. 30333. Ethanol, freezer, terrible. Ethanol, great. What C lens do you recommend? What do you mean C lens? For the what do you mean by C lens? C mount? Canon mount? No, that's not what that is. Yeah, Matt, tell me what you're specifically looking for, and I'll find it for you before the next time. If you mean a C mount like this for the microscope, yeah. Well, there is no lens if you're doing that. So yeah, tell me what it is you need, and I'll figure it out. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on what that would be. Okay, I'll just keep talking forever if I don't press the end button. Thanks for coming, and if I didn't answer your question, we'll get to it next time. Thanks for coming. Take care, everybody. Have a good day. Oh, C mount. All right. Last thing. What? You have a C mount camera? A camera that uses a C mount is a what? Like a view camera? We'll talk about it next week, or catch me at Discord. Go over to Discord, leave me a message, and I'll respond. Okay, guys, I got to go. I've got Mylar to mail. Mailing Mylar today. Take care. Cheers.